I hope you can see my screen, right? Just a second more, please. Just a second. Okay. So now I'm done. So I hope you can see my screen, and on the screen I have opened up the index page from the Kaplan textbook, and let me discuss how to grasp the professional mark. So I hope you would be aware there are I hope you would be aware that there are 20 professional marks, of which 10 in section A and 10 in section B. Section A would examine, okay, section A would examine all of the 4 professional skills, whereas section B would examine any 2 out of 3 professional skills. So which one will not be covered in section B? I will be highlighting that. But let me first discuss what are these communication skills and what are the expectations from the examiner perspective on these communication skills. Okay. So, sorry, on these professional skills. So the first professional skill is the communication. What is communication? What does the examiner expect under this skill? The first communication is inform concisely, objectively, and unambiguously, adopting a suitable style and format using appropriate technology. Appropriate technology means whether you have to respond your answer on Word or you have to respond your answer on a spreadsheet, you need to decide this. Format means you should be very clear with the exam format, like how to start, what should to write in the start, things like that. So this is the format. So I will be discussing the format element shortly after a couple of minutes within this PDF, for sure. Then the third discussion is around suitable style and format. Now, inform concisely. Concisely means information should not be very much prolonged, or it should not be summarized enough that, we don't have, it should not be incomplete, but it should not be very much too lengthy. Unambiguous means you should be clear what you are saying, what you are trying to say, what you are trying to achieve. All that messages should be very clear. So that is the one aspect of the professional skill, which is communication. Second of the professional skill is Second aspect of this skill communication is you need to advise using compelling and logical argument, demonstrating the ability to counter argue where appropriate. Means, for example, if it is mentioned that, for example, it's the text calculation or text matters of Qunber, and Qunber has a friend who has some know-how of the text, and he or she is of some view. Then you should be able to counter the argument where appropriate. So, for example, my friend has advised me like Qunber should transfer with respect to IHT. Qunber's friend has advised some of the text planning methods. Is the Qunber's friend correct in advising those text planning aspects? Yes, no. So this is something which we need to uh, demonstrate as part of our the B point of the communication. The argument should be logical, and the argument should be logical. Clarify and simplify complex issues to convey relevant information in a way that adopts an appropriate tone and is easily understood and reflects the requirement of the intended audience. So, with respect to the C point, if you look, there are two connectors in it. So, two connectors means one and second end. So, it means the point C itself contains 3 points, 3 bullet points. First, you need to clarify and simplify complex issues to convey relevant information that adopts an appropriate tone. Means, for example, let's say if you visit to a doctor and doctor start quoting the name of disease or bacteria in its own language, you will not be able to understand what doctor is trying to say. In the same way, you are the text expert. Use the relevant language, but it should not be technical enough so that the other person, the audience, would not be able to understand. It's easily understood and reflects the requirement of the intended audience. So, third important thing of the good communication skill is it should reflect the requirement. So, what is asked should be answered rather than what is not asked should be avoided, because there is no negative marking in ACC. So, for example, if you are responding to any of the requirement which is not asked and you respond, there is no negative marks, right? But if you are writing it, means you are giving your time to it. And if you are giving time in exam to any unnecessary things, it means you are indirectly sacrificing any of the necessary things. You must be sacrificing any of the necessary things. So, in that sense, it's not good to write irrelevant stuff. Communication. Second, analysis and evaluation. What is analysis and evaluation? Analysis and evaluation, again, it contains of several itself bullet points. First, investigate relevant information from a range of sources using appropriate analytical techniques to establish reasons and causes of issues, assist in decision making, and to identify opportunities or solutions. So analysis and evaluation means, for example, in a given situation, if to conclude for any of the release, you need any further information, you should be able to highlight that, like the question does not specify whether the person is employed or not. If employed, then let's suppose the person qualifies for BADR, if not, would not qualify for BADR. So, in this form, you must have an analytical techniques to establish reason and cause of issues, assist in decision making, and identify opportunities or solutions. Consider information, evidence, and findings carefully, reflecting on their implications and how they can be used to support the interest of the individual entity or wider business organization. So with respect to this, in the analysis element, if any of the information is given, you need to deal with that information very carefully. So analysis and evaluation includes, for example, if a person says while calculating IHT, I have not included my main residence as I understand, or motor vehicle as I understand, motor vehicles and main residence are not subject to IHT. So you need to demonstrate then that it's your analysis and evaluation element that you should be able to comment like, hey, no, with respect to IHT, nothing is exempt. So if it's CGT, it's fine. But with respect to IHT, all assets should be included in a state. Hence, please do include your own, uh, please do include your main residence and motor vehicle in the IHT calculation. So this is something which we need to demonstrate under this category as well. If I move further forward, the next is assess and apply appropriate judgment when considering ethical, professional, or other technical issues. Just a second. When making conclusions or recommendations, taking into account the implications of such decisions on the entity or individual. So while concluding, for example, to take care of ethical, professional, or other technical issues. So one, you need to consider ethical, professional, or other technical issues. So ethical issues, I hope you understand. Professional issues, what could be the professional issues? So professional issues could be in the form of any clue about this? So professional issue could be, for example, if any of the decision is impacting the independence of the person, then it's a very likely possible professional issue. The next is other technical issue. Other technical issue means whether we as a firm, do we have enough expertise in dealing with uh, such type of tax issues. So this is all uh, basically technical issues. And keep one thing, remember, if you refuse to do so, or if you do not consider appropriately technical considerations or other technical considerations, then what could be the consequences of this? Right? If I move further forward, with respect to this analysis and evaluation, the next is appraise information objectively in order to do effectively prioritize issues, identifying missing information and exploring suitable alternatives when making decisions, devising course of action, or providing conclusions or recommendations. Communicate conclusions reached together where necessary with relevant supporting computation. So be very clear in your conclusions. What are your conclusions which you are drawing over here? The next is skepticism. What is skepticism? Skepticism is explore the underlying reason for issues, applying an attitude of questioning mind where appropriate, beyond what is immediately apparent. So one of the possible example of this point could be what we just spoke few moments ago, which is basically uh, like I said, for example, if any information is given, you need to be very careful, you need to be vigilant. uh, it's not necessary that every piece of information given in question is, you can say, I would not say factually incorrect. The better word is to say, like, there can be a minor traps in some of the information which you need to identify very carefully. Questions opinion, assertions, and assumptions by seeking justifications and obtaining sufficient evidence for their support and acceptance or rejection. So whatever is given in the question, not necessarily it would be true. You need to think like question. There can be some, a trap type of information given in the question. So trap means, here the word trap means anything which is not very much factually correct can be given in the question. So you need to be very vigilant around such type of information. Challenge and critically assess the information presented or decisions or recommendations made, where this is clearly justified in wider professional, ethical, organization, or public interest. State and explain assumptions made or limitations in the analysis provided. So if you are making any particular analysis and you are putting any kind of assumption, do specify, like in this calculation, this is my assumption. So, or above calculation is based on X assumption, or that is based on Y assumption. You should be very much clear on your assumptions, what you are assuming. Together with any inadequacies in the information available and or additional information required to provide a full analysis. So this is something which we just spoke few moments ago. Like if anything is missing or incomplete, it's my job to, my job is in respect to exam, identify like this information is missing in the question, or to have a better analysis, to have a better firm type of uh, ending, I need to have this much information. Last, commercial acumen. Commercial acumen, okay, it is something which will be only in section A. It will not be in section B. Commercial acumen demonstrate awareness of organizational and external and other non-text factors which will affect decision, with regard to text taken by an individual or entity. So this could include, for example, if you are claiming any of the relief and due to relief, for example, you need to pay any kind of tax, then it's part of your commercial acumen that you need to demonstrate. Like if you go for the relief calculation, what will be the possible consequences of that relief calculation? You must be able to highlight that. Recognize key issues in a given scenario and use judgment in proposing and recommending commercially viable solution. So it's like um it's in the question, do not think with respect to the text matter zone. Do keep in mind the other factors as well. Other factors like liquidity position, the timing of cash flow position, stuff like that. So these are the commercial acumen. Offer solutions which are practical and commercial in the context of scenario being considered. Show insight and perception in understanding key text drivers of an individual or entity, demonstrating acumen in arriving at appropriate recommendations. Show insight. So that's another important thing is you need to be demonstrate like you have a proper and sound knowledge of the text. So for example, this is not limited to what is mentioned in the question. It in fact includes at times you need to have some background discussion uh, of any particular uh, text law type of thing. So it is something which has a very wide scope. After commercial acumen, so is there anything to ask from these professional skills? So is there anything to ask from these professional skills? I assume that I should go with acceptance by silence approval. So, Harrison, I was discussing uh, the two components of this professional uh, skills marks, that is communication and analysis and evaluation. So what is professional communication? What is analysis and evaluation? So initially, I had a discussion on these two elements. Perfect. Yes, so some discussions, and after those discussions, the next agenda is the exam question. The second discussion is around uh, how to write a report. So at times in the requirement, you are asked to write a report, you are asked to write a letter, you are asked to write a memo, stuff like that. So if any of the such thing is asked, what is the format, from where you start, where you end, what should be a format? These are the important things. Please do give a proper consideration to this discussion and what I'm going to advise you in next couple of minutes. First, keep one thing remember. One thing is your formatting. Formatting means, for example, how you are going to write your answer. So, for example, with respect to formatting, just two, three, few of the important things for you. With respect to formatting, uh, they can normally the ATX question is a mix of calculation and theory, and examiner really do not advise in ATX whether you are supposed to write the answer uh, in Word document, or you should write the answer in a spreadsheet. So examiner really at this phase, at this stage, do not guide these type of things. So it's you have to decide at your own where you want to write the answer. So for example, it could be possible that in a given situation, I prefer to write the answer in um I prefer to write the answer in spreadsheet as compared to Word document. So that's my decision. For example, it could be possible that I decide to write the answer in um, spreadsheet. And again, since it's a mix of both, then normally you need to analyze whether in your question what is the major portion? Is the major portion theory or is the major portion calculation? If the if the major portion is theory, if the major portion is theory, then your main answer would be on Word, and you would be referring towards working on a spreadsheet. And vice versa, if you have a calculation heavy question with minor theory, then in such situation, which is rarely in the ATX, then in such situation, your main answer would be on a spreadsheet with reference towards the spreadsheet. Okay. Second thing. Second thing. In the question, use your own formatting. So, for example, there are normally up to 4 subheadings which we do put in the ACCA exam. The let's suppose, and that's purely my thinking loud element. For example, your heading 1, it should be bold, italic, underline. Okay, this is your heading 1. Then there must be somewhat format of your heading 2. Heading 2 can be, let's suppose it can be um, italic, underline. Heading 3, it could be underline. Heading 4, it would be at caps, let's suppose. So this is a possible heading format which which we can consider which we can consider in the exam. And the reason being I'm using the word we can consider in the exam, because it's not mandatory to follow this, what I am telling. My key message at the moment is make your own heading style and follow that. That's it. So this is something which can vary from person to person. Not necessary that, for example, if I'm guiding you this way to make your heading structure, you follow that. So you can alter this, you can amend this, that's totally your call. Okay. Now, last few discussions before I start the question. First is a report format. So how to write a report, whatever you are going to write. So for example, if you are going to write a report, the first heading should be of report. If you are going to write a letter, the heading should be of letter. If you are going to write a memo, the heading should be of memo. So whatever you are going to cover, there should be the proper heading for that. Okay. Then it is report. So that would start from to, then from to means basically to whom you are addressing, from the writer, and in the from a good and in the from you should know, you should focus on your designation very carefully in the question. So at times in the question you are given a capacity of you are tax advisor. So if you are tax advisor, you are tax senior, you are tax partner. So you should be very much clear on your own designation. What is your designation given to you in the question? Okay. Date is normally always given in the question. So you should follow whatever date is given in the question. Select a suitable subject always. So you need to decide, you need to consider a suitable subject always. So it is something which depends upon question to question. I will be discussing with you how can we decide about this thing, a subject. Then I can see this thing. This is something which is like heading 1. This is something which is like you can say heading 2. This is something which is like you can say heading 3. Okay. So up to 3 levels of heading is there, and we have to follow this approach of heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Then uh again heading, again heading, again heading. Calculations are in between. So that is a report element. So technically, I hope your this question is with respect to this exam perspective. So that was the report format. If I look into letter format, this is the format of the letter. So sender name, receiver name, address, date, start with dear, because you are writing letter, you are addressing to any particular person. Uh, then again headings decorum has to be carefully dealt. Sorry. And probably I can see like here the requirement would be of conclusion as well. And if you notice in the letter, there is a proper appendix as well. Uh, Either workings can be in appendix or it can be shifted accordingly. Memorandum, last. Memorandum to from date subject. So this is similar to the report. As far as your question is concerned, what is the exact difference between memorandum and report? I can see headings, workings. Workings can be towards end, not an issue. But let me look where this memorandum ends, because it ends over here. So, and one thing as part of memorandum is usually set short sentence, bullet points can be used. Calculation can be included within the body of memorandum and should be clearly labeled as always. You should be able to label that as well. So it's not like you put it in silence, but you should call up. Whereas if I look towards mm, report, if you are asked to write a report, you should set up shown below. The report should be broken down into clearly labeled sections, and you should write in full sentences. So it's not key bullets type of thing, which we would be covering over here. Rather, it would be main of a uh, full sentences. However, you should still try to use short paragraphs and avoid showing lengthy calculations within the body. Avoid showing. So it's not prohibited very strictly, but it is something which is not encouraged over here. Um, Detailed calculations should be shown in appendix to the report. These could be prepared in a spreadsheet, whereas the main narrative would be better present in the word processor. So this is basically the key elements of the report, letter, memorandum, etc., etc., etc. So before I move further forward, anything anyone of you want to ask, discuss, or should I move towards the CB platform? Hmm. So fourth thing, Harrison, it can be email. So, but email doesn't have any particular format which I would be able to show. So that's why we are not talking about email thing as such. Uh, and generally it's any of these three or four, report, letter, memorandum, and respond to the email. So Harrison, it's always good to start with the 50-mark question. So there is no such, and so you should start with question one, or start with the question on which you are confident that you are good. So there is no uh, preference of section A or section B or section C, and very honestly, in this computer era, it doesn't really matter from the examiner perspective which question you attempted first, because if you are using a pencil, then it really matters a hard copy, then it really matters what you are going to attempt first, what you are going to attempt second. But if you are attempting on computer. So whatever question you attempt first doesn't matter. Again, which question you should attempt, look for the topics, look for the content of with respect to the requirement, and always start with your core area first. So for example, if you are good, just have a look at the requirement perspective. If you feel you are comfortable in the requirements of, let's suppose, any of the three questions, you should start with that particular question first. So I hope uh, my screen is visible. I have opened up the CB practice platform. I am on advanced taxation. Within this advanced taxation, the drop down of UK, ACC official resources. There are three sub tabs in the ACC official resources. One is past exam library, second one is practice exam, and third one is specimen. If I look it towards past exam library, in past exam library, whatever questions are with respect to 23-24, you should assign it to yourself. You should assign it to yourself. So if you look, I have not assigned only one paper to myself. That is September, December 21, which is based on 21-22 syllabus. Since it is based on 21-22 syllabus, hence not considered. Otherwise, I have considered all of the, by the way, this is also on 22-23. So I'm ignoring this one as well. Ignoring this one as well. So I have only assigned three papers from the past exam library. Okay, the 23-24 syllabus salary. Then if I look into practice exams, all three practice exams are assigned. Then if I look towards specimen, specimen is something which is based on Finance Act 21 and Finance Act 20. So I really do not advise you guys to attempt such questions from the from this platform, because you know, the one of the issue with the tax is, if you are attempting questions from the past, it would be based on the previous tax rate. So that's why. So I have assigned all of the relevant papers to me. I hope you guys have noted which papers to assign. Okay. Now I am heading towards. So this is Harrison, this is enough for practice on computer, and please, I would appreciate that if you solve this within your time frame. Rest exam kit is there to be completed. Okay. So I have opened up the TX paper. I'm not touching the practice papers. I'm touching the oldest paper, because what I believe is, if I go for the latest one, it's good that you attempt it at your own. So that's why I'm going towards the oldest paper. June 23. Next, next, next. Um, so I'm going to start the question. Um, you should assume that today's date is 1st September 23. You are an ACCA student working for a firm of accountants. Your manager has asked you, has asked for your assistance in drafting notes in preparation for a meeting with Hiromi in relation to her personal tax affair. In addition to some ethical considerations which have been raised by your manager, advice is required in respect of the capital gains tax payable on the sale of property and the sale of business assets, the availability of incorporation relief, uh, the reliefs available in respect of trading loss of a sole trader, the tax implications of the payment and receipt of a dividend, the records to be kept by a company. The following exhibits, the following exhibits available on the left-hand side provide information relevant to the question. Hiromi's income and chargeable gains, memorandum from manager, sale of unincorporated business, which is a schedule from Hiromi, work to be carried out, email from your manager. This information should be used to answer the question requirement within your chosen response options. And if you look, chosen response is basically a word processor or a spreadsheet. One thing which I missed to highlight, your manager has asked you for assistance in drafting notes for preparation for a meeting. So what are you supposed to make over here? Correct. So here we are supposed to make a mainly a memo, right? Let's start this. I hope it's readable. Extract from memorandum Extract from memorandum from your manager dated 1st September 23 recording matters discussed in meeting with Hiromi. Hiromi recently became a client of your firm. Her sources of income and chargeable gains for recent tax years are summarized below. Sources of income. Hiromi has been in business as a sole trader since 2014. On 31st December 23, Hiromi will incorporate her business by selling all of its assets to a newly formed company called HKR Limited. The details of this transaction are set out in the schedule from Hiromi. Okay. Hiromi tax adjusted trading profits for the 3 periods of trading are set out below. 6 months to 6 months ending 31st December 23, budgeted, which is a loss. Year ended 30th June 23, loss 4,000. Year ended 30th June 22, which is a profit of 8,000. Overlap profits were 13,500. Hiromi other sources of income in recent years was a house which she rented out until she sold it on 28 Feb 23. Hiromi's assessable property income for the final 2 years in which she owned the property is 21-22, 22-23. Chargeable gains. Hiromi only disposal in recent year was of her rental property on 28 Feb 23. 28 Feb 23 means the property is disposed of in fiscal year 22-23. Hiromi sold his house for 26 to 65,000. She had inherited it from her uncle on 1st March 2011 when it had a market value of 221,500. Hiromi uncle had purchased the house for 135,000 on 1st September 2024. Hiromi had never lived in the property. While reading the question, think of the consequences along with. So, so, what are the correct? There would be no PPR. That's nice. And since this house is inherited to her on her uncle's death, so you can imagine what should be the cost. Okay. Income tax refund. Hiromi has received an unexpected refund of income tax from HMRC in respect of the tax year 1920. Fine. So we are done with the income and chargeable gains discussion. The second is sale of unincorporated business. Schedule from Hiromi. Dated 1st September 23. Sale of the assets of my business to HKR Limited. I will sell all of the assets of my business to HKR Limited at their market values on 31st December 23. Details of assets to be sold are set out below. Market value, building, current assets, total. Market value, cost, chargeable gain. Fine. Just thinking loudly. How goodwill has a cost. So there should be no cost of goodwill, right? Looking to the future, I expect, okay, I will receive 50,000 ordinary pound one shares in HKR Limited, the whole of the company's issued share capital. The value of these shares will be 255,000, representing 81% of the total consideration. The remainder of the consideration will be left on a loan account and will be paid to me in future. It's fine. I will not make any further capital disposals in the tax year 23-24. Looking to the future, I expect the turnover of the business to increase considerably in 24-25. As a result, HKR will be able to pay me a salary of 5,500 per month, beginning on 6th April 24. I will also be paid a dividend of 7,000 each year. The first dividend will be paid on 1st November 2025. As a result, okay. Finally, I require advice on the record keeping requirements which will apply to HKR Limited in relation to business activities. Fine. The last exhibit, work to be carried. Now, what are we to be precisely supposed to do? So in the body of the question, that was a high level, what are we supposed to do? But here it would be very much granular, and to be precise, what examiner wants us to do in detail. I need you to prepare some notes for internal use prior to a meeting with Hiromi. The notes should be set out in a manner which will make it easy for us to refer them during our discussion and should address the following issues. Refund of income tax. Summarize the action which our firm should take, including the matters we should bring to Hiromi's attention in relation to the refund. She received 5 marks. So this is somewhat ethics related discussion. Second, chargeable gains. When carrying out this work in respect of chargeable gains, you should ignore any relief which may be available in respect of trading loss. Calculate the capital gains tax payable by Hiromi as a result of the sale of rental property on 28th Feb 23. In respect of the proposed sale of Hiromi's business asset to HKR Limited on 31st December 23, explain whether or not each of three conditions for incorporation relief will be satisfied, and on the assumption that incorporation relief will be available and that all available reliefs will be claimed where necessary, calculate the CGT which will be payable by Hiromi as a result of a business asset. Trading loss, Exhibit 1 and 2. Two exhibits addresses that. For the purpose of Part C, you should ignore terminal loss relief and national insurance contribution. So how I highlighted it belongs to ethics because ethics, there are uh, limited things which normally discussed in ethics. One, refund of income tax, it is ethics related issue. New client joining, ethics related issue. Uh, yep. Ignore terminal loss and NIC. Calculate the Hiromi's budgeted trading loss for the tax year 23-24 and state how the loss can be relieved. Using the loss calculated in part B1, explain which supporting calculations the tax saving which would result from the following two alternatives. One, relieving the loss as soon as possible, assuming that no relief is claimed in respect of the tax year 22-23. Set out matters we should draw to Hiromi's attention in order to help her decide on how to relieve the loss. Quote, when HKR Limited owns the business, explain with supporting calculations the tax implications for HKR and Hiromi of paying a 7,000 in the tax year 23-24. Sorry, 25-26. State the matters you should draw to Hiromi's attention in relation to the requirement to maintain and retain records relating to its business activities. Fine. So, not very much technical question. Let me read the requirement from here as well. You should assume that today's date is for September 23. Respond to the instructions in the email from your manager, and split of the marks allocation is shown in Exhibit 3. Work to be carried out and professional marks to be would be rewarded based on analysis, evaluation, skepticism, commercial acumen, and in the answer. Right. So let's start writing the answer. Hmm. So the first thing is what we are supposed to write. So let's start it from there. Extract from an email manager dated. I need you to prepare some notes for the meeting. Prior to our meeting with Hiromi. So this is what exactly my manager has asked me to prepare, and I'm going to prepare that. So this is a kind of memorandum, but I will use the word what is advice. For notes for notes for discussion prior to the meeting. So this is what I'm going to make at the moment, right? Now, notes for discussion for prepared by date and subject. For so if you are advised to write email to manager to client into whatever, but here are we supposed to write to the client? No. Imagine what should be done with such document. Such document would always be documented in the client files prepared by ACCA student. Notes in preparation for a meeting. ACCA student working for a firm of accounting. Okay. So I am ACCA student working for firm of accountants. So here, does the question specifies my designation? The answer is no. So I can keep it here as tax associate. Date was, what was the date? 1st September 23. Subject. Now, what should be a suitable subject? Romy various matters. Right? Um, the first discussion is around refund of income tax. Refund of income tax. The first issue was around refund of income tax. Bold, italic, not I don't like italic. Is there any caps option? There is somewhat size increase. Refund of income tax. So I'm done with the first heading. Now, we it was like Hiromi received some of the summarized actions we should bring to Hiromi attention in relation to the refund. And this is Hiromi has received an unexpected refund of income tax from HMRC in respect of the tax year 1920. Fine. We should assist Hiromi in identifying whether or not there was a valid reason for the refund. If we are unable to identify valid reason for refund, we have to conclude that the refund was made as a result of an error on part of HMRC. In these circumstances, in these circumstances, we should inform Hiromi that the amount should be repaid and that failing to do so would be a civil and or criminal offense. Then HMRC should be informed of their error as soon as possible in order to interest and penalties. In the unlikely event where Hiromi is not willing to refund the money, we should consider ceasing to act as tax advisor. Then we would then notify HMRC that we no longer act for Hiromi as tax advisor without disclosing the reason. The same matter would be discussed with money laundering reporting of this MLR. 5 marks, that's pretty much fine. Uh, right, chargeable gains. So part B is about chargeable gains. With respect to chargeable gains, um, I guess I need to read it again. When carrying out this work, you should ignore any relief which may be available in respect of a trading loss. Calculate the capital gains tax payable by Hiromi as a result of sale of a rental property on 28 Feb 23. Means the gains would fall under 22-23, right? So first capital gains tax calculation. Then in respect of the proposed sale of business asset, so I will discuss this thing later on. But let me first have workings on the first subpart of the requirement. Capital gains tax payable, sale of rental property on 28th Feb 23. CGT payable, right? So are we going to work out over here? Like tax pure looks to be calculation. So the answer is no. The spreadsheet should be properly labeled for this. Disposal recent rental property 265,000. Uh, so allow me to write cost, and cost should be the probate value. So the cost is 221,500. Then as a result, gains amount after these gains and like less annual exemption taxable gains, 37,500. Of this taxable gains, I need to consider because I'm not supposed to calculate taxable gains. I'm supposed to calculate capital gains tax payable. For capital gains tax payable, um, he has property income of 15,500 and 30th June 22 means fiscal year 22-23 trading profit. So 8 plus 15,500. 15,500 total income taxable income is 10930. Basic rate is still 37,700. So its BRB available is 26,770. On these gains, 26 gonna tax at the rate 10%. Sorry, at the rate 18%. And whatever is the rest of gains amount, gonna tax at the rate. Is this thing clear? So again, I hope this should be clear. Heading towards part two of the question. Part two of the question is, in respect of the sale of Hiromi's business asset, explain whether or not three conditions of incorporation relief will be satisfied. And B, on the assumption that it will be available. So second part says that on the assumption that it will be available, calculate the CGT which will be payable as a result of Hiromi's business asset. Fine. It is proposed sale of Hiromi's business asset. Proposed sale of business assets to of your own business. The first is availability of incorporation. So this is my third heading. The following three conditions should be satisfied for the incorporation relief to be available. First, all the business is transferred as going concern. Second, all of the assets of Veromi other than cash third, the consideration received by Hiromi for the sale of business include include Tarun, Taruna, you want to ask anything or is it by mistake your mic turned on? So because I have muted you. So if still you want to ask anything, please unmute yourself. all of the conditions are met, hence corporation relief would automatically apply. Just wanted to highlight one thing. The lack of business profits in last 18 months prior to the transfer does not automatically indicate that the business is not going Mhm. For the CGT payable. Refer working to of a spreadsheet. Again, here the requirement is also to calculate CGT payable. The requirement is not to calculate only uh, gains element. Okay. Exhibit 2. So if I look into the assets, current assets are exempt from IHT. Goodwill, there is no gain at the moment. So the only element is the building, right? Total gains are by the amount 172,000. Incorporation relief. Here the consideration was 81%. Hence, incorporation relief would also be 81%. As a result, P2680. By the way, when the incorporation was going to take place, 31st December 23. 31st December 23 means we are talking about fiscal year 23-24, right? Annual exemption, PGT would be at the rate 10%. PGT would be at 10% due to DADR. PGT would be at 10% due to business asset disposal will be as complete business as transfer. I hope that would be pretty much clear, right? Trading loss, one, two, trading loss. How the loss can be underlined. Fine. So what can we do with this trading loss? What are the options available with this trading loss, etc., etc.? What are the reliefs available? If I ask you in general, what are the reliefs available with respect to this trading? By the way, since uh, I don't know whether you guys noticed or not, I noticed this thing. So at the start, the information given in the question was with respect to fiscal year 22-23. And with respect to fiscal year 22-23, there is a discussion, there is a calculation on the business cessation terminal loss type of thing as well. But in the Finance Act change of 23-24, there is no fiscal year related discussion, there is no tax year related discussion. As sorry, as already highlighted in the changes video and during the lectures as well. In this Finance Act, there will be no such discussion. No such discussion means there will be no basis period, no overlap profit, etc., etc., etc. So that's why we are not going to talk about the calculation of trading loss. Rather, we will be directly discussing about the reliefs available. Okay. Keep remember a key terminology with respect to the reliefs in the question in the exam. Whenever you are working on the reliefs, the most important thing is to give a proper consideration. What is the loss? From where we are planning to adjust it. Either are we planning to adjust it from current year or are we planning to adjust from carryback? Which income we will be using, total income, taxable income, capital gains. So these things should be clear. The trading loss can be offset against the total income of 2023-24. The tax year of loss and or the total income of 22-23, the preceding tax year of loss, the chargeable gains of either of both of the same two tax years, provided the claim has already been made against total income of the years concerned year. So now the point which now I am going to write is something which is very situation specific. The first available income received from HKR Limited. For example, salary and or dividend under incorporation relief. Why under incorporation relief he is still eligible? Because he's like still 81% shareholder. Right? He is still 81% shareholder. So he can claim the uh, incorporation relief related loss relief. Okay. Then using the loss calculated in part 1 above, explain with supporting calculations the tax savings which would result from the following alternate. Okay. So you explain with supporting calculations that tax savings result from the two following alternatives. So what we are doing assessment of evaluation of good one. Evaluation of reliefs available. The evaluation has to be made under two dimensions. First, relieving the loss as soon as possible and relieving loss in future, right? Before I start writing these two considerations, first, how it should be captured above. That trading loss should be 27,000 plus 4,000 plus 13,500. 13,500 is basically the overlap profits from business start. So if I make a very simple addition rather than going into the complex calculations, and again, like I said, this is something which I am using from my own earlier prior knowledge. For you guys from examination perspective, there will be no such calculation involved with you guys. All such information would be provided to you guys in the exam. So nothing to worry around. Okay. So if I make a sum, 27, 30, 3,500, and it's 44,500. This is now evaluation. Relieving the loss as soon as possible. As soon as possible means the loss is of 23, 24. The preference should be to either adjust it in current year or simply carry it back, right? Total income gains, etc., etc. It should not be carried forward at least, right? So offsetting the trading loss against Hiromi's income in 2023-24 would use 23,500 of loss. Refer to working one on spreadsheet. By the way, just to give you a reference, how this 23,500 is calculated. This 23,500 is calculated as 8,000 trading income and 15,500 of property income. This would result in income tax saving of 23,500 minus 12,570 is equal to, I have calculated that, 10930. Tax saving of 2,186. So if I adjust the loss over here, that would be my tax savings with respect to the income tax. The remainder of loss, how much remainder of loss? So the loss was 44,500 minus 23,500 21,000 could be offset against apologies, I got disconnected. Um, I hope I would be audible properly. Right. Refer working 3. Chargeable gains were 43,500. Loss We are like loss should have to be 21,000. Then I have net gains. Annual exemption, taxable gains, on these taxable gains, since it's residential property, original CGT was by the amount 7 to 8. Income tax savings, loss adjusted with income first, hence no income. Accordingly, all gains fall in basic rate. The total tax saved would be 7039. So this is relieving as soon as possible. The second option was relief in future. Relieving the loss in future. Hmm. The trading loss could be carried forward and offset against Hiromi's employment income in uh, 31st will incorporate her business by selling 31st December 20. So that should be 24-25. Employment income in 24-25. Relief in future. So in future, uh, I need to calculate the original liability and liability after loss relief. Employment income. Looking to the future, I expect the turnover to increase considerably as a result. 5,500 per month salary beginning on 6th April 24. So it would be like 24-25. I will be paid the dividend. The first dividend will be paid on 1st November 25. So it means there will be no dividend in fiscal year 24-25. There will be dividend but in fiscal year 25-26, right? Original liability is 5,500 multiplied by 12. Trading loss brought forward. So here trading loss brought forward is like 44,500. As a result, after trading loss brought forward, personal allowance, taxable income. After this taxable income tax payable, 37,700 at the rate 20%. So this is like tax savings, right? So I have calculated the tax savings under both. Explain with supporting calculations. Fine. Explain you believe in loss in the future. This option would save tax by 12046. Under leaving the loss as soon as possible would result in tax savings of 7,039, whereas relief in future would result in tax savings of 12046. Set out methods to decide how to relieve the loss. Methods to draw for Hiromi's attention. Again, that sounds a very bit different kind of requirement, but very honestly, that's not a unique at all. Like we have uh, performed this one requirement so many times, like discussed this thing so many times. But here, obviously, it would include some sort of quantification as well. Hmm. Carrying the loss forward for offset against income derived from HKR Limited would save additional tax by 12046 minus 7,039. If you make a difference, that would be somewhat around 5007. However, carrying the loss forward would result in the benefit of loss relief being delayed. First, second, HKR may not be profitable as expected. This would impact the future tax savings. Third, so uh, last part of this requirement. When HKR owns the business, explain with supporting calculations So here there are two parts. The first part is uh, the implications paying a dividend, and second is methods drawing to the attention. The tax implications paying dividend. The implications would be the dividend would not be allowable expense for the purpose of calculation of corporation tax. HKR Limited has to pay corporation tax of as a result so no, I cannot comment how much he has to pay the tax. Second, Hiromi would be HRTP in 2025-26 due to salary of 66,000. Accordingly, our tax on dividend would be there is no NIC on dividends, neither considered in relevant earnings of Hiromi. Tax implications, and second one was record keeping. Record keeping. HKR Limited must retain the records required to make a complete and correct corporation tax return. The records must usually be retained until 6 years after the end of the relevant accounting period. The maximum penalty imposed can be 3,000 for each accounting period if HKR not kept the records. So I'm done. Do share your feedback. How much you enjoyed the question. If you enjoyed the question or not, that's another aspect. But I hope so. I believe so. You guys must have enjoyed the question. A great learning. Not too much areas touch based in this question, but yes, a good uh, coverage of the question. Perfect. So allow me to keep it here for today. Let's meet tomorrow for the second session of this uh, revision marathon series. So if still any question, feel free to reach out. For that, the PDFs of this that will be uploaded, So nothing to worry around in the shared drive, in the shared folder. So no worries on that front. Perfect. Once again, thank you for being with me, for supporting me in the calculations. Take care from my side. Allah Hafiz and good night. If you have planned to sleep, otherwise, best wishes with your study again. Thank you.